Today we're going to dive into 6 root vegetables that are known to cause rapid blood sugar spikes. Now, while root vegetables certainly contain valuable nutrients, it's important to know that some varieties can really have a significant impact on your glucose levels. This is mainly due to their high starch content, and because of this, they can be particularly challenging for folks who are managing diabetes or for anyone who's carefully keeping an eye on their blood sugar. Top 6 root vegetables that raise blood sugar rapidly. Number 1, potatoes. First up, let's talk about potatoes. Now, potatoes are a staple in so many diets, but they're also a pretty significant source of carbohydrates. To give you an idea, just one medium-sized baked russet potato has about 37 grams of carbohydrates. That's quite a bit, and it can quickly turn into glucose in your bloodstream, causing a noticeable rise in your sugar levels. When we look at the glycemic index, or GI rating, of potatoes, it can really vary quite a bit, generally falling into that medium to high range. So depending on the type of potato and how you prepare it, the GI can go anywhere from 50 to over 100. For instance, boiled white potatoes often have a lower GI compared to baked or mashed potatoes, and those latter types can lead to a more rapid jump in blood sugar. It's also really interesting how cooking potatoes plays such a crucial role in how they affect your blood sugar. If you fry potatoes, think French fries or potato chips, you're not only increasing their fat content, but you can also keep that GI high. On the other hand, boiling or steaming them might give you a slightly lower GI, especially when compared to baking or mashing. And here's a tip. If you cool potatoes after cooking, it actually increases their resistant starch, which can be beneficial. So, as you can imagine, effective portion control is absolutely essential if you're including potatoes in a diabetes-friendly diet. Instead of reaching for a large baked potato, maybe consider a small one, or try limiting your serving to about half a cup. Just being mindful of how much you're eating can really help lessen those potential blood sugar spikes, and that way, you can still enjoy potatoes in moderation. And if you're looking for some healthier potato alternatives that might have a lesser impact on your blood sugar, you could consider options like sweet potatoes. Though remember, in moderation, as they still have carbs. Cauliflower mash can be a fantastic substitute for mashed potatoes, or you could explore other lower-carb root vegetables. These alternatives can often provide similar textures or satisfy those cravings, but with a gentler effect on your glucose. Number 2, carrots. Moving on to number 2, we have carrots. Now, carrots are often praised for their health benefits, but it might surprise you to learn that cooked carrots can actually have a high glycemic index rating. This is something that could concern individuals who are managing their blood sugar. You see, the cooking process tends to break down the cellular structure of carrots, and this makes their natural sugars more easily available for digestion and absorption, which can potentially lead to faster glucose spikes. And there's a really notable difference in the glycemic impact when you compare raw and cooked carrots. Raw carrots actually have a low GI, often around 16, so they're a great choice. But when carrots are boiled or cooked for a long time, their GI can climb to 32 or even higher. This puts them in that low to medium GI category, which means you'll want to be a bit more cautious if you're managing your blood sugar. Now, despite these concerns, let's not forget that carrots are absolutely packed with valuable nutrients. We're talking beta-carotene, which is a precursor to vitamin A, along with fiber, potassium, and antioxidants. All these components are fantastic for eye health, immune function, and just overall wellness. So the key here is to balance their nutritional benefits with their potential effect on your blood glucose, mainly by being mindful of how you prepare them and your portion sizes. To help minimize any glucose spikes when you're eating carrots, it's a good idea to pay close attention to the recommended serving sizes. For example, a small portion of cooked carrots, maybe about half a cup, is less likely to cause a significant blood sugar rise compared to a larger serving. And another tip is to pair your cooked carrots with foods that are high in protein and healthy fats, as this can also help slow down that glucose absorption. So, what are the best ways to prepare carrots if you're concerned about blood sugar management? Well, you'll want to lean towards eating them raw or lightly steamed. Munching on raw carrots in salads or as snacks helps preserve their low GI. And if you are going to cook them, try a quick steam or a stir fry instead of boiling them for a long time. This can help them retain more of their structure and lessen that glycemic impact. Number 3, parsnips. All right, coming in at number 3 are parsnips. Parsnips have this lovely, sweet, earthy flavor, and they're often classified as having a medium glycemic index rating. Now, the exact GI can vary, but it's generally higher than what you'd find in many non-starchy vegetables. This means they can cause a more noticeable rise in your blood sugar levels compared to things like leafy greens or broccoli. If we take a closer look at their carbohydrate content, parsnips are actually relatively dense in carbs. A 1-cup serving of cooked parsnips can pack around 24 grams of carbohydrates, and a good chunk of that is starch and natural sugars. So this carbohydrate load is the main reason they can have a significant impact on your blood glucose, especially if you eat them in large quantities. When you compare them to other root vegetables, the glycemic impact of parsnips might be considered moderate. They usually rank higher than raw carrots, but can be lower than certain types of potatoes. Understanding where they sit in this relative position can really help you make informed choices when you're planning your meals to manage your blood sugar effectively. And just like with other veggies, how you prepare parsnips can influence their effect on your blood sugar response. If you roast or boil them until they're very soft, it can make their carbohydrates easier to digest and absorb, and that could potentially lead to a quicker increase in glucose. On the flip side, consuming them when they're a bit more al dente, or in smaller, controlled portions, can help lessen this effect. So to better manage your blood sugar when you're enjoying parsnips, it's a really good idea to balance them with sources of protein and fiber. For example, if you serve a modest portion of roasted parsnips alongside some lean chicken and a large salad, that can help slow down the overall digestion and absorption of glucose. And that, in turn, leads to a more stable blood sugar response. Number 4, beets. Next on our list, at number 4, we have beets. Beets are often categorized as having a medium glycemic index, usually somewhere between 60 and 65. This classification tells us that they can cause a moderate rise in blood sugar levels after you eat them. So this makes portion control and how you prepare them really important considerations, especially for individuals with diabetes or anyone keeping an eye on their glucose. Now, the sugar content in beets is relatively high for a vegetable. It's primarily in the form of sucrose, which is actually the same type of sugar you find in table sugar. And while these are naturally occurring sugars that come along with beneficial nutrients, their presence does contribute to the vegetable's potential to raise your blood glucose levels, particularly if you eat them in larger amounts. It's also worth noting that different preparation methods can change the blood sugar impact of beets. For instance, pickled beets might have added sugars, and that would increase their glycemic effect. Cooked beets, whether you boil or roast them, tend to have a GI in that medium range. However, if you consume beets raw, perhaps grated into salads, that might offer a slightly lower glycemic load because their fiber is still intact. For individuals with diabetes, eating beets really presents a balance of benefits versus risks. On one hand, beets are rich in nitrates, which can improve blood flow, and they also contain antioxidants like betalains. But on the other hand, their sugar content means you need to manage them carefully. So the key here is moderation and really considering the overall carbohydrate count of your meal. And this brings us to portion sizes, which are crucial when you're including beets in a diet aimed at managing blood sugar. A small serving, something like half a cup of cooked beets, is generally what's advisable. It's also a great idea to monitor your own individual blood glucose response after eating beets. This can give you some really personalized insight into how this particular root vegetable affects your levels. Number 5, corn. All right, let's move on to number 5, which is corn. Now, corn is often enjoyed as a vegetable, even though, botanically speaking, it's a grain. It typically has a medium glycemic index rating, usually falling somewhere between 55 and 65. This means that for many people, it can cause a noticeable, though not excessively rapid, increase in blood sugar levels. So this definitely requires some attention to portion sizes. The relationship between corn's starch content and its impact on your blood sugar is pretty direct. You see, corn is rich in carbohydrates, mainly starch, and your body breaks this down into glucose. So the more corn you eat, the more glucose enters your bloodstream. This can potentially lead to elevated blood sugar levels, especially if it's not balanced out with other macronutrients. It's also interesting to note that there can be a difference in blood sugar impact between fresh corn and processed corn products. When you have fresh corn on the cob or frozen kernels that are cooked, they retain their fiber, and that fiber can help moderate glucose absorption. However, if you're looking at processed forms like corn syrup or corn flour in baked goods, or even some corn cereals, these can have a much higher glycemic impact. So, as you might guess, proper serving sizes are really key to minimizing those glucose spikes when you're eating corn. A typical serving could be about half a large ear of corn or around half a cup of kernels. If you go over this, especially if you don't have accompanying fiber or protein, it can lead to a more significant rise in your blood sugar. And a great strategy is to pair corn with foods that are rich in protein and healthy fats. This can help reduce its overall impact on your blood sugar. For instance, you could add corn to a salad that has grilled chicken and avocado, or maybe have a small portion of corn as a side to a main dish that's focused on protein. These combinations can help slow down digestion and lead to a more gradual release of glucose. Number 6, winter squash. And finally, at number 6, we have winter squash. Varieties like butternut, acorn, and spaghetti squash are generally classified as having a low glycemic index. But here's an important point. Despite this low GI, they can actually be quite high in carbohydrates. This means that if you eat larger portions, they can still lead to a significant rise in your blood sugar levels if you're not consuming them mindfully. It's also true that certain varieties of winter squash might cause more significant blood sugar rises than others. This is mainly because of differences in their total carbohydrate and sugar content per serving. For example, butternut squash tends to be sweeter and a bit higher in carbs when you compare it to spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash has a milder flavor and fewer carbs, which makes it a more blood sugar-friendly option, especially if you're having it in larger quantities. And of course, preparation methods also play a role in how winter squash affects your glucose response. Roasting winter squash, for example, can concentrate its natural sugars, and that could potentially increase its glycemic impact compared to steaming or boiling it. And it goes without saying, if you add sugars or sweet glazes during cooking, that will further elevate its effect on your blood sugar. So, portion control strategies are really vital when you're incorporating winter squash into a diet for glycemic control. Even though it has a low GI, eating large amounts of carb-rich winter squash can still overwhelm your body's ability to manage glucose. A good guideline is to aim for servings around 1 cup of cooked squash, and then, as always, monitor your individual response. Finally, balancing winter squash with other foods is essential for better glycemic control. If you pair it with lean proteins, healthy fats, and high-fiber non-starchy vegetables, this can help slow down the absorption of carbohydrates from the squash. And the result? A more stable and gentle rise in your blood sugar levels after your meal. Managing blood sugar. When eating root vegetables. So let's talk about how to manage your blood sugar when you're eating these root vegetables. Really, effective portion control is the cornerstone of managing blood sugar whenever you're consuming any carbohydrate-rich food, and that definitely includes the root vegetables we've been discussing. It's good to be aware of standard serving sizes, for example, about half a cup for cooked starchy vegetables. And then, of course, adjust that based on your own individual dietary needs and how your glucose responds. Next up, food pairing. This can significantly help lessen those blood sugar spikes. You should always aim to combine your root vegetables with sources of lean protein, think chicken, fish, or beans, and also healthy fats, like avocado or nuts. And here's another tip. Adding fiber from non-starchy vegetables such as leafy greens or broccoli will further slow down that sugar absorption. Also, remember that the way you cook your root vegetables can influence their impact on your glucose levels. It's best to opt for methods like steaming or boiling and then cooling them, as this increases resistant starch, or roasting with minimal added fats or sugars. You'll want to avoid frying or any preparations that involve sugary glazes, as these can dramatically increase the glycemic load. And finally, a really crucial step is monitoring your glucose levels after you've consumed these root vegetables. This provides such invaluable personalized feedback. Try to check your blood sugar about 1 to 2 hours after a meal. This will help you understand how specific foods and portion sizes affect you personally, and that allows you to make informed adjustments to your diet for better long-term management. So to wrap things up, while root vegetables definitely offer numerous health benefits and essential nutrients, if you have diabetes or any blood sugar concerns, it's wise to consume the 6 varieties we highlighted today with a bit of caution. By understanding their impact and by implementing these proper dietary strategies we've talked about, you can absolutely still enjoy these foods in moderation while successfully maintaining stable glucose levels. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you experienced blood sugar spikes after eating any of these root vegetables? Please share your experience in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for more evidence-based nutrition advice on managing blood glucose levels naturally.